Little Girl's amazing plea for Sibling's fever medicine exposed injustice until a millionaire man awakened to reality. Lily's heart raced as she pressed her finger against the splintered wood of a neighbor's door, a spot her imagination had always painted with laughter and sweetness. But today was different. Today, the sun shining on manicured lawns felt like a spotlight exposing her vulnerabilities. Beneath her feet, the perfectly paved sidewalk felt like a threshold to a different world, one where her brother, Ben, sick with fever, shrunk beneath a pile of blankets she yearned to pull him from. "Just a little for my brother's medicine," she whispered, even as waves of dread washed over her. What if no one answered? What if they turned her away? Jenna, her mother, worked herself to exhaustion, juggling 2 jobs to scrape enough together to keep the fridge stocked, but medical bills were something they couldn't touch. The gap loomed larger than their living room, threatening to swallow their small family whole. Beneath the cheerful exterior of their community lay a ragged truth, and Lily felt it suffocating her. She couldn't let Ben down. She had to be brave. Taking a deep breath, she knocked again, the sound echoing her plea. The door swung open, revealing Ms. Alvarez, her kind neighbor with a wrinkled smile. "Lily!" she exclaimed, but the warmth faded the moment she noticed Lily's trembling lip. "What's wrong, honey?" "Ben is sick," Lily stuttered. "He needs medicine." Shame twisted inside her, battling with determination. She had prided herself on being responsible, yet here she was, exposing their weakness. With each door she approached, her voice wavering, she felt the weight of their financial struggles crash down further, rendering her invisible beneath its pressure. What if Ms. Alvarez said no? What if her worries for herself overshadowed her compassion? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Lily took Ms. Alvarez's eye contact, steadying her breath as her neighbor listened, but the hesitation in her expression felt as heavy as the fever radiating from Ben's tiny body. Each denial felt like stones piling on her chest. She moved on, seeking another door, another thread of hope, even as embarrassment clung to her. What did she even know about asking for help? She was just a kid drowning in silence. Across the street, Mr. Thompson rubbed his temples in frustration, his office crammed with business accolades that felt more like chains than accomplishments. At first, he dismissed the scene unfolding outside, something he had witnessed too many times. But the sincerity of Lily's quest started prying at his resolve. Each quiver in her voice beckoned to something buried deep within him, a memory of chasing butterflies in his childhood, unaware of the burdens that adulthood would soon place upon him. He fought against the wave of guilt and uncertainty that began to cloud his mind. This wasn't his problem, wasn't he it? Lily knocked on door after door, but no one could help. Desperation crashed against her spirit as realization dawned she was fighting a battle against a system that seemed impenetrable. But if none of the adults waded in, who would save her brother? The tension wrapped around her like the oppressive heat of a summer day, and she was only 10, yet she felt the weight of the world crushing her efforts, pushing her to the brink of surrender. Could she keep going in a fight that felt insurmountable? Would their story fade into the shadows? And then, a horrifying thought rushed through her. What if Ben didn't survive long enough for her plea to spark action? Lily's breath quickened, the sense of failure constellating around her like a choking fog. Each unanswered knock echoed in her mind, a cacophony of rejection that conjured memories of laughter and play, now overshadowed by her brother's feverish whispers from the room they shared. The walls of her community, once painted with familiarity, now felt like barriers that disconnected her from the help she so desperately needed. Why can't anyone see? She questioned silently, clutching the edges of her sleeves. She tried to summon the lightheartedness that had once embodied her spirit, but it slipped through her fingers like water, cool and eluding. Determination sparked anew, Desperation transformed into a steely resolve. She was no longer just seeking help. She was waking up to the reality of her strength, a force she hadn't fully realized lay dormant within her. Maybe the thought flared. Maybe I don't just have to knock on doors. Lily glanced across the street toward Mr. Thompson's imposing office, his figure silhouetted against the curtain. The business accolades that had once seemed to denote security now felt like chains of obligation. She recalled the flicker of vulnerability in his eyes mixed with guilt. She could appeal to him. Perhaps this would be the moment that defines everything. She inhaled deeply and crossed the street, her heart pulsing with rhythm, intermingled with fear and excitement. Reaching the door, she hesitated, her fingers hovering above the polished wood before rapping it resolutely. His face emerged cautiously, eyes narrowed and brow furrowed. "Lily?" he questioned with some surprise. "Mr. Thompson," she began, trying to channel the weight of her circumstances into her voice, standing more upright as if to borrow the strength that echoed from his stature. "My brother Ben is sick, and we need medicine. I can't keep asking the neighbors. We just need a little help." The brooding tension in Mr. Thompson's expression shifted. It seemed as if her plea cracked open a door within his heart that had been sealed shut for years. "Lily," he started. "These things, please," she cut in, her voice trembling but firm. "I know it's a lot to ask, but I promise I'll do everything I can to make it right. I don't want Ben to suffer." Something shifted in him, a tenacity ignited by her bravery. "What about your mother?" "Mom's working. She's always working. But I can't wait for her. Ben needs help now," she insisted, a newfound clarity sharpening her focus. She could see him grappling with his own reservations. He stood there, a reluctant hero on the brink of decision. "What kind of help are we talking about here?" he finally asked, the reluctance edging into inquiry. "I don't know. Medicine? Anything that can help get rid of this fever." Her urgency wove through his hesitation, piercing the walls of doubt. He nodded slowly, the pieces of his guarded world threatening to crack. "Come inside," he said finally, gesturing her in. "We can see what needs to be done." As she stepped over the threshold, feeling the warmth of the interior wrap around her, Lily realized her boldness had ignited a flicker of change. This wasn't just about medicine. It was the awakening of something larger, the realization that courage could lead to unforeseen outcomes, possibly even shifting the lives around her. Yet, as hope began to weave its way back into her reality, doubts slinked in, whispering reminders of what she fought against. Would this be enough to pull her brother from the brink? The uncertainty churned deep in her gut, and with each moment she felt the mounting tension of potential outcomes as the path before her widened into something she couldn't fully comprehend. And as she looked up into Mr. Thompson's eyes, the gravity of the unknown solidified her resolve. What she had strained to achieve could very well hinge on this pivotal choice. The moment felt fragile, a tightrope walk between desperation and hope, leaving behind a haunting suspicion: would they succeed, or was Lily merely postponing the inevitable? The air in Mr. Thompson's office was thicker than Lily anticipated, suffused with the scent of old leather and stale coffee. Sunbeams broke through the half-drawn blinds, illuminating the dust motes that danced idly in the stillness. It struck her that this wasn't just an environment of business. It was a space where decisions were made, some monumental and some mundane, but all with profound implications. "Have a seat," he offered, motioning toward a cracked leather chair. The choice sounded benign, yet it felt monumental. Sitting seemed to dictate a relinquishing of control she wasn't ready for. Yet she needed to surrender to the moment for Ben's sake. As she settled into the chair, her nerves unsettled, she watched Mr. Thompson meticulously clear a space on his cluttered desk, a slight frown creasing his forehead. "Tell me what's going on with your brother," he said, leaning against the desk with arms crossed, a subtle challenge woven into his words. The gravity of his attention ignited her resolve. "Ben has a high fever, and we're out of medicine. It's scary. And with Mom working so much, I need someone to step in. I know you've done things for people before, Mr. Thompson. I wouldn't." He asked if it didn't mean everything to us. A frown punctuated his careful silence, and doubt flickered in his eyes. "I can't just give out medicine, Lily. It doesn't work that way. Then help me find a way, she urged, her voice barely a whisper but each syllable bearing her heart's weight. I mean it, I'm willing to work for it. If you help us, I'll do anything. I can clean. I can run errands. I could even assist with your office. The complexity of that offer filled the space around them. Candor met desperation in a tangled mesh of emotions. Mr. Thompson's lips pressed into a thin line, blindsiding her stomach with escalating anxiety. Could it be that the man who had once been a fixture of financial safety for their community would turn away from an earnest plea out of mistrust or cynicism? Why would you want to work for me? He asked, his tone disarmed yet probing. Because it's not just my brother's life at stake. It's everything, she replied, conviction shivering in her voice. I don't want him to suffer, and I don't want to be helpless. Finally, the mask he had worn for too long began to crack. You're a brave girl, Lily. But don't you see how risky this is? What if what you're asking for doesn't pan out? I need to look out for my business as well. His words landed heavy on her, an unavoidable truth that could unravel everything she had just built. I understand, but I can't let fear stop me from trying to help my brother. Isn't there's something in your life that's worth fighting for? Something that challenges you to be better? A transformation flickered in his expression, doubt wrestling with intrigue. Unmasked vulnerability, and the tension of their contrasting worlds crackled between them. She felt it, an unmistakable force compelling her to advocate for not just Ben but for herself. Her heart raced at the realization. She was on the precipice of change not just for Ben, but for her own sense of empowerment. Convinced this was a moment not to let pass, she leaned forward, navigating this new alliance with intention. I know there are rules and risks, she said, her eyes locked on his, unyielding. But I'm willing to confront them if you let me in. The uncertainty etched in Mr. Thompson's face suggested the beginning of acceptance. Yet, as he hesitated, her mind spiraled with fresh questions. Would he choose to act in response to her plea? Or was this a dead end, forcing her back into her purpose of seeking help? How can I convince you? She asked, praying for clarity as she fought against the swirling doubts. And in that moment she understood there were truths to unravel, new partnerships to forge, and a future yet unwritten. The challenge lay ahead, and as tension vibrated in the air, she sensed the looming decisions that could shape their lives irrevocably. The room felt charged, sealed with unspoken agreements as Mr. Thompson's brow furrowed deeper. All right, let us explore this, he conceded. But understand, there are challenges involved, challenges tougher than anything you can imagine. Lily inhaled sharply, her pulse a resolute chime of determination. She was committed to confront everything that lay ahead. What awaited her wouldn't be easy. But it was time to discover the depths of her own courage. As they began to outline next steps, a question gnawed at her heart. Could she navigate whatever challenges would emerge without losing sight of the one goal that mattered most, saving Ben? The ticking of the clock broke the tension that hung in the air, each second amplifying the weight of Mr. Thompson's words. As she absorbed the gravity of their budding partnership, Lily's mind raced through a torrent of possibilities. It was a rare chance and opportunity to directly influence her brother's well-being, one that required her to tap into an inner strength she was still discovering. Let us start with your skills, Mr. Thompson's voice brought her back from her reverie. What can you actually do for me that can justify your request? An unsettling blend of urgency and eagerness washed over her. Here lay an arena where she could showcase emerging capabilities she hadn't fully acknowledged. I'm really good with organization, she replied, her confidence tinged with uncertainty. I can sort through your files, make appointments, anything you might need help with. Mr. Thompson squinted slightly, studying her, as if searching for hidden flaws. Organization doesn't sustain a business, Lily. It's a start, but we need concrete results. Can you negotiate with suppliers? Handle the accounts? Communicate effectively with clients? The bar set before her seemed almost insurmountable. But with Ben's face at the forefront of her mind, she felt the stirrings of a fierce determination. I'm a fast learner, she asserted, her resolve crystallizing. I'll do whatever it takes to understand these aspects. You'll find I can adapt. Her words were heavy with the weight of necessity. As Mr. Thompson leaned back, the corners of his mouth hinted at a contemplative smile. You've got spirit, I'll give you that. But if you're serious, you'll need to fully commit. It won't just be office tasks. I expect loyalty and a level of discretion that comes with the territory. Lily straightened in her chair, deepening her focus. You can count on me. Just tell me what you need, and I'll deliver. Every syllable she spoke felt like a pact woven into the fabric of their deal. She could no longer afford to cower in the shadows of doubt. She had to emerge as a formidable ally. The mere thought sent pulses of adrenaline through her veins, and she considered how this was a chance for personal growth beyond her original plea. Let us outline a plan then, Mr. Thompson said, shifting gears. You'll work mornings before school, 3 days a week. I'll pay you enough to help with your brother's meds, and if you prove reliable, this could grow into something more substantial. She nodded, excitement mixing with the raw reality of the tasks ahead. Each word felt like a new layer to her identity being formed. She was no longer just a scared girl pleading for help but an emerging professional ready to face tangible challenges. As they drafted their plan, the office transformed into a tactical battlefield. Her grasp of finances, the intricate dance of invoices, and the often frustrating nuances of customer service were new territory. Each step brought revelations. Her ability to think critically, problem-solve under pressure, and maintain composure in daunting scenarios were all unearthing competencies she'd previously underestimated. Time slipped away, consumed by conversations about deadlines, follow-up calls, and goals, a whirlwind of activities stripping away layers of her naivete. Yet, as they delved deeper, a creeping doubt threaded through her enthusiasm. Was she truly prepared for this? Could she perform at a level that met Mr. Thompson's expectations while also balancing her responsibilities at home? A circular tension enveloped her thoughts, like a tightening noose. The pressure amplified as the reality of her commitment weighed heavy. Would she be able to walk this path without succumbing to the fear of failure? Just as questions clawed at her mind, Mr. Thompson turned, an expectant look on his face. If you're going to join me in this venture, remember one thing: there's no room for error. You'll need to prove your worth every day. She clenched her jaw, the truth of his statement resonating. With the stakes mountainous, and time slipping through her fingers like grains of sand, Lily lingered on the precipice of transformation. The intensity of the moment seeped into her being. This was not just about her brother anymore. It was about not just surviving but thriving in the chaos that awaited. As they concluded their discussion, she felt the collective weight of expectation settle upon her shoulders. Could she navigate the challenging complexities that lay ahead and rise to the occasion without faltering? With her heart racing, Lily's gaze met Mr. Thompson's in unspoken agreement. Their journey together had just begun. But as she stepped out of the office, a new question surfaced in her mind. What would happen if she faced the choice between helping Ben or preserving her newfound role in Mr. Thompson's world? The solid door of Mr. Thompson's office clicked shut behind Lily, but the unease it contained seeped through her even as she walked down the dimly lit corridor. Solution-focused conversations had given way to an internal war raging within her mind. She had made a pact to become more than what life had predefined. Yet with every step, uncertainty thrummed louder. Would her commitment truly yield positive change, both for her brother and herself? As she crossed the bustling street outside, the world around her made it clear she was part of something larger now. Each honking car, each passerby on their cell phone, stood in subtle contrast to her internal struggle. They moved with ease through their routines, while she was uncertain if she could become a part of that rhythm. The afternoon air was sharper than she expected, stinging her cheeks. She pulled her worn jacket tighter around herself as thoughts flickered back to Ben. The idea of balancing her professional aspirations alongside her responsibilities at home was daunting. She was determined, yes, but pressing forward with confidence was something she had yet to master. Arriving home, the muted sounds of a television greeted her, a stark reminder of the reality that awaited. Ben was sprawled on the couch, fevered and pale. His small face lit up for just a moment upon seeing her, a reminder of why she plunged into this vortex of branding herself an emerging professional. "Hey, Lily! Are you home?" His voice wavered but held an innocent excitement. "Yeah, I've been busy. How are you feeling? She kneels beside the couch, brushing a small strand of hair from his forehead. His skin was warm, the signs of illness etching a frown across her brow. Looming volleyball practice, Ben said cheerfully. Despite his pallor, they said they'd start without me if I kept on being sick. Her throat tightened. The world of organized kids' activities felt a million miles away. She couldn't afford for such distractions to burden her already thin budget, yet she didn't want to dampen his spirit. We need to focus on getting you better first, she replied, forcing a smile. But inside, the weight of her promise began to press down. Balancing this fragile relationship with her responsibilities at Thompson's demanded precise navigation. Her fingers itched to pick up her phone. Tasks would require detailed communication with suppliers and clients. But how could she craft messages and negotiate when her brother needed her focus? Sitting down to help him with his homework felt like an act of defiance against the mounting expectations waiting for her at the office. Ben's wide eyes sparkled with admiration as he responded to her tutoring. But as the clock ticked, she felt it dragging her toward the inevitable crossing of paths, the critical decision looming overhead. Lily caught herself staring out the window, watching shadows of doubt flit across the pavement. Each tick of the clock felt like an echo from Mr. Thompson's earlier warnings: no room for error. Would her failure impact not just her ability to rise up but the very health of those she cared for? With layers of urgency binding her, she finally spoke. I need to tell you something important, Ben. Things might change for us. His brow furrowed slightly. Change how? Not sure yet, just trust me, okay? I'm going to try really hard to make things better. His small nod of understanding filled her with a bittersweet blend of pride and apprehension. She turned back to the world outside, the possibilities of next week's work swirling in her mind like a cyclone. Probably, she'd make mistakes on her first day. Perhaps she would stumble over trivial things, but sufficiency wasn't the goal anymore. It was progress, growth, and the fight it would take to get there. The question lingered in her mind, heavy and insistent. Could she truly make choices that benefited them both, or would she inevitably have to choose precious responsibilities over her brother's need? As evening settled in, a new dilemma sparked within her. A defining moment awaited. Would she continue this balancing act? Or would there come a point when she'd have to choose between her path forward and the well-being of her brother? The choices ahead would test her like never before, and she had to face them head-on, ready or not. Lily awoke in the early hours, clouds hanging heavy in the twilight. The gentle rhythm of Ben's breathing mingled with the ticking clock, amplifying her internal disquiet. Her mind buzzed with determination, yet the fatigue twisted her resolve like a taut wire, ready to snap. She had promised herself it would be different this time. Today marked her first day fully committing to the emerging role at Thompson's, but the reality of walking that path was already daunting. As she prepared breakfast, she could almost hear Mr. Thompson's smooth voice replaying in her head, offering insights about resilience, about the thin edge between professional growth and personal obligation. She pulled her hair back, the reflection in the kitchen window revealing a woman determined but haunted by uncertainty. The stark contrast of her morning routine against Ben's quiet illness added weight to her already heavy heart. Ben, you want some toast? She called, finding comfort in the small, underlying act of nurturing. Yeah. And can I have honey? His voice was muffled, yet it shone with that characteristic hopefulness that propelled her through the haze. Deliberate and methodical, she plated the toast, each slice a reminder of the paving she must undertake, building the future slowly, sustainably, without sacrificing the present. As the brother she adored joined her at the table, she struggled to mask her worry over his evident pallor. More sugar today. I think I can break through the fever, he grinned, and she laughed despite the apprehension filling her chest. But as they ate, the ticking clock in the back of her mind began to taunt her. Each moment spent away from the potential avalanche of work felt like stepping onto a tightrope, balancing her ambitions and Ben's needs. Once his plate was clean, she knew it was time to put preparation into action. In that moment, driven by necessity, she pulled her laptop onto the table. Beneath her soft finger touches, messages began to unfurl into outlines, reflecting her commitment to engage, to push boundaries. It was her moment of awakening and emblem of hope for herself, yet the dual responsibilities weighed on her, constantly tugging at her conscience. One wrong move could set her back or worse, jeopardize Ben's health and future. Lily! Ben's voice disrupted her train of thought. Look, I can balance this book while standing on one leg. His small act of defiance, striving to channel his vigor despite illness, sparked inspiration within her. It was an embodiment of resilience. Watching him, she realized that she could learn from this little flare of enthusiasm. It awakened a hunger inside her, a conviction to navigate the professional world not just as a formality but as a dance of creativity. Minutes turned into hours, and as she continued refining her communication strategies, something stirred beneath the surface of her focused facade. She felt the potential to thrive rather than simply survive. The instinct to preserve Ben's childhood innocence and hope propelled her into addressing her own fears of inadequacy. She recalled the spark Mr. Thompson had seen in her, a belief echoing softly within. What if she could harness that childlike imagination, meld it with her professionalism? With newfound determination, she edited emails with vivid illustrations, perceiving them as canvases rather than chores. She transformed her fears into strategies, her heart racing, reminding herself to tackle each message with the same attention she afforded her brother while tutoring him. As dusk fell, Ben's eyelids grew heavy beside her. She leaned over, placing a gentle kiss on his forehead, a silent prayer for his health and a promise to herself. The battle underway in her mind was shifting. She began to visualize a clearer future, twin streams of courage competing for illumination. The instinct to lift her brother despite wavering in her own life felt like a vivid commitment to an unfamiliar warmth. But as the evening enveloped its contours, the dialogue within grew louder, stinging at her resolve. The day had prepared her for work, but how could she navigate the inevitable conflicts arising from competing duties? Pain surged through her mind, a conflict she'd need to confront. Could she dance on that tightrope indefinitely, or would disruption pull her from the delicate equilibrium she sought? In this struggle, a realization dawned within her: she possessed more strength than she ever acknowledged. Yet facing the dual demands would require her to challenge not just the world around her but the truths she held about herself. Tomorrow would lay bare the first trial of her resolve. She needed to brave a confrontation head-on, not just with the expectations of others, but with her own insecurities. Would she actually rise to the occasion or crumble under the relentless pressure? The dawn of that test awaited, driving a new narrative forward, poised to unearth her deepest fears and the intimate truths that shrouded her commitment. Lily woke the next morning, grim anticipation etching lines into her brow. The morning light filtered through the curtains, transforming the chaos of the previous day into a murmured promise of new beginnings. As she prepared to face her first day at Thompson's, her internal dialogue spiraled into a cacophony of self-doubt. Every ethical consideration swirled before her. How could she commit herself fully to a job while fear gnawed at the edges of her other responsibilities? Breakfast felt routine as she poured cereal into bowls, but the tick of the clock nudged her thoughts inward, making the minutes feel richer with anxiety. Ben was still under the weather, a persistent shadow that loomed over her. She needed to quell not only the fever that clung to him but also the swirling tempest in her heart. "Would you like to help me make a fancy breakfast today?" she asked, trying to mask the tension in her voice with enthusiasm. "Can we make pancakes?" he replied, his eyes lighting up. The question hung heavy in the air. Could they afford that luxury with the clock ticking down to the start of her workday? Still, she nodded and pulled out the mixing bowl, relinquishing her lingering fears to the warmth of their morning ritual. As they stirred and poured batter onto the griddle, Lily felt a flicker of connection, a momentary distraction from the weight of her ambitions pressing down on her shoulders. The resilience emanating from Ben as he offered advice on pancake shapes softened her resolve momentarily. Yet, as Ben laughed and flipped mini pancakes, the reality of her impending responsibilities threatened to claw back at her. With breakfast on the table, she leaned closer to Ben, attentive yet torn. "Promise me you'll rest while I'm gone," she whispered, searching his gaze for reassurance. "I promise!" he exclaimed, his earnestness sparking a flicker of courage in her chest. Soon, the time had come. As she donned her jacket, she felt the familiar knot of uncertainty tightening within her. Each step toward the door was laden with unspoken worries. Would her eagerness for professional growth overshadow her role as caretaker? Her commute blended into a backdrop of unanswered questions, each bump on the road vibrating with self-recrimination. What if she couldn't juggle both her worlds? What if she didn't measure up to Mr. Thompson's expectations? Arriving at Thompson's, she found herself frozen outside the door, breathing in the hum of a bustling workplace. The building loomed above her like an imposing mountain she had to scale, rife with challenges and unknowns. Just breathe, Lily, she whispered to herself, pushing against the tide of her doubts. But the moment she stepped inside, an unexpected element sliced through her apprehension. Mr. Thompson himself. "Lily! Glad you could make it," he greeted, his warm demeanor inviting yet pressuring. The eagerness in his eyes was palpable, an instant reminder of what was at stake. As the morning unfolded, Lily was thrown into meetings that bombarded her with jargon and fast-paced conversations. The buzz made her head spin, and she struggled to keep pace while managing her own fears of inadequacy. Yet amidst the noise, the realization hit her: the energy of Thompson's wasn't hostile. It brimmed with opportunity, creativity, and a certain kind of camaraderie. When the time came to present her first strategy outline, the clamoring thoughts of uncertainty thudded in her mind. Could she make her voice heard? As she took a breath and began to speak, she noticed all eyes fixed on her, not scrutinizing, but intrigued. With each sentence, she began to shed her fears, infusing her naturally imaginative style into the presentation. A spark ignited within her, coaxing out the grit she didn't know she possessed. However, as the meeting wrapped, a wave of self-doubt washed over her. Could she sustain this creative force, or was it merely a fleeting moment? Later in the afternoon, an unexpected email notification chimed, a reminder for her first progress check-in with Mr. Thompson. Anxiety rolled over her in palpable waves like an approaching storm. The confrontation she had anticipated was now a reality. Yet beneath the rising tide of worry simmered a resolve that anchored her. Perhaps she could evade the tightrope walk, rather forging a new path that merged personal and professional aspirations. With this thought, she resolved to approach the meeting with honesty about her ambitions, vulnerabilities, and the duality of her world. The clock ticked louder, echoing the dual tensions held in the balance. Would she finally voice the tumult she felt inside, or allow fear to stifle her uniqueness? The moment of truth loomed just beyond her reach, ready to unravel the challenges ahead. As the digital clock ticked down to the meeting, Lily felt her heart race in tandem with each shallow breath. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, the hum of office chatter blurred into an indistinct backdrop. She hadn't anticipated the adrenaline pulse that accompanied every tick, turning her pulse into a drumbeat resonating with uncertainty. With a final exhale, she pushed open the door to Mr. Thompson's office, stepping into a room that reeked of polished leather and papers stacked high. He was reviewing documents, his brow furrowed in concentration. The moment he glanced up, a wealth of expectations filled the silence. "Lily, let us hear where you think we are heading," he said, gesturing toward the spare chair across his desk. Sitting felt like casting herself onto a stage without a safety net. She scanned the room, perceiving it as a theater where all her flaws might be exposed. She started, and her voice trembled slightly. "I wanted to discuss what I observed during the meetings, and how I can align my work with the company's vision." He nodded, intrigued, giving her the solid ground she craved. Lily approached the subject, her insights and innovative concepts drawn from both her observations and innate creativity. As she spoke, the lines of tension on Mr. Thompson's face softened. For the first time that day, doubting thoughts faded into the background of her mind like distant echoes. "Interesting perspective," he remarked, leaning back, hands intertwined. "You're bringing a fresh approach to our strategies, and I appreciate your willingness to articulate your thoughts." Despite the rush of adrenaline, something within her settled. This time, her thoughts didn't echo back in criticism, their value was recognized. Yet as they delved deeper into her proposals, shadows of doubt nudged their way back in. She mentioned Ben, her son's illness, in passing, and felt the urge to explain. Her professional identity battled with her role as a caregiver, the two intertwining like intricate threads. Sometimes balancing personal and professional responsibilities feels overwhelming, she admitted tentatively. Everyone has their burdens, Mr. Thompson replied, his voice firm but empathetic. It's how you integrate your life experiences into your work that can set you apart. The few words hung in the air, filling the room with a resonance of truth. In that moment, she began to comprehend the duality of her existence. Perhaps her vulnerability could become an asset rather than a weakness. Do you ever feel, she paused, choosing her words carefully as the dialogue shifted deeper, that we have to sacrifice parts of ourselves to achieve success? I sometimes wonder if I need to let go of something to push forward. His gaze sharpened. Success often comes at a price, Lily. However, it's vital to recognize what is worth the cost. The gravity of his statement seeped into her. It sparked a fire within, a conviction that arose from a newfound understanding. Their meeting waned, wrapping up with Mr. Thompson signaling the potential for future collaboration. As Lily walked out of his office, a fresh resolve burgeoned inside her. The doubts persisted, but now they were overshadowed by the recognition of her abilities and the realization that she need not choose between her roles. Despite the lingering anxiety about her responsibilities at home, she had peeled back layers of her own internal landscape. Hidden power lay within her, an emerging capacity to weave her familial passion into her professional pursuits. As she settled back into her workspace, an email dinged from a coworker inviting her to contribute to a significant project. Excitement bubbled beneath the surface. Should she take the plunge and say yes? An opportunity was knocking. But what if it took too much time away from Ben? The clock ticked loudly as she deliberated. Would she step into the light of this new opportunity, or retreat into the shadows of caution? In that moment, she knew a revelation awaited her. With a deep breath, she considered the broader implications of saying yes. Confronting her fears could lead to an unforeseen evolution. Would she embrace the risk and transform reluctance into affirmation? The impending decision loomed, ready to dictate the next chapter of her journey. Lily stared at her screen, her heart racing as she opened the email. The invitation felt like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters, but the fear of what accepting could mean twisted her stomach. The project was pivotal, one that could redefine her role within the firm and showcase her capabilities. But there was also Ben. She could almost hear his soft, feverish whimpers echoing in her mind. The dilemma transformed into a heavy weight, pressing against her resolve. Stop overthinking, she whispered to herself, but words alone weren't enough to quiet the storm in her head. What did seizing this opportunity mean for her responsibilities? The prospect felt both exhilarating and suffocating. Leaning back in her chair, she considered her priorities, the competing narratives battling it out in her mind. She could visualize the meetings intense, filled with brainstorming, pushing boundaries. But every idea she conjured came with a flash of guilt. Could she truly balance her commitments to her son with the demands of a high-profile project? With trembling fingers, she typed a response, weighing the risks against the potential rewards. "I'd love to participate," she wrote, her heartbeat pounding louder with each keystroke. "I can bring some ideas to the table." Pressing send unleashed a wave of anxiety. It was done, a decision made, but uncertainty loomed like a cloud on the horizon. The whirlwind of office discussions that followed only compounded her trepidation. Colleagues welcomed her contributions, and even Mr. Thompson showed an unmistakable approval when she shared her thoughts during team meetings, each nod reinforcing her choice. But while her confidence grew, so did the nagging fear of Ben's health. It felt like a thread pulled tight and ready to snap. Would she be able to manage both worlds? That evening, she prepared a presentation for the project launch, her thoughts split between strategic frameworks and Ben's medicine cabinet, its emptiness gnawing at her mind. For a brief moment, frustration bubbled up. Why was she here, working late in an office, while he was at home unwell? She quelled the rising anger. The world demanded performance, and she needed to rise to the challenge. As she dived deeper into the project, diligently crafting her ideas into cohesive strategies, moments of clarity thrust forward, the realization that her experiences as a caregiver deepened her understanding of market needs. Each sleepless night with Ben had awakened an empathy that could resonate within the target audience. Where she once viewed her life's duality as a burden, it now appeared as a unique advantage. The morning before her big presentation, when her phone rang, Lily's stomach fell. It was the nurse from Ben's doctor's office. "His condition is a bit more serious than we thought," the nurse explained gently. "We recommend you bring him in for further evaluation." Panic rose in her throat. Did it mean putting her job on hold? Her mind raced, grappling with her loyalty to her son alongside her ambitions at work. This was the moment she confronted the intersection of love and responsibility. "Thank you for letting me know," she replied, keeping her voice steady. "I'll make arrangements right away." As she hung up, uncertainty washed over her. She could feel the pressure mounting, a tangible force banding her anxieties. The presentation later that day would be the opportunity she had sought but now felt tainted. How could she focus on sharing her vision when Ben needed her? Would she shatter her budding reputation upon which she relied? She found herself in the unyielding tension of fear and aspiration. The two paths before her laid bare, one leading into uncertainty, the other pulling her back toward responsibility. Despite the chaos inside her, she steeled herself with resolve. Today mattered more than just for her career. Taking a deep breath, she tightened her grip on the folder containing her presentation notes. The moment had come. She would not only face the board, but also the reality of her choices. Would she choose to rise in her new role or prioritize her son's urgent needs? As she walked into the meeting room, the stakes felt palpable. The room buzzed with anticipation, and as she approached the podium, questions about balance and identity filled her mind. This moment would define her authentic self against the facades she often wore. Would she break the molds or remain within the lines drawn by others' expectations? The clock was ticking toward an inevitable confrontation with herself. It was time to confront the very core of her identity. A revelation awaited, and the question loomed: would she shatter the expectations or forge a new path? Lily stood at the podium, absorbing the collective energy in the room as her heart hammered against her ribcage. The faces of her colleagues, once intimidating, now transformed into a sea of potential support. In a single day, the culmination of her efforts would either elevate her career or redefine how she balanced her personal life. The ticking clock reminded her that Ben was unwell. His situation demanded her attention, yet this was her moment to prove her worth. Clearing her throat, she began speaking, weaving a narrative threaded with her unique experiences as both a caregiver and an emerging professional. The presentation transformed into not just a showcase of strategies but a testament to deep personal growth and resilience. She shared how navigating Ben's illness fueled her understanding of empathy in the marketplace, how life's challenges birthed profound insights. "What we often overlook," she stated, her voice resonating with conviction, "is that adversity can unveil hidden strengths we never knew we had. It teaches us to innovate, to adapt. I have both the passion for success and the understanding of what true commitment means, especially when family is at stake." As she spoke, she felt layers of doubt peeling away, exposing a core of unyielding strength. After the presentation concluded and the applause crescendoed around her, Mr. Thompson stood, his expression shifting towards admiration. "Lily, you've demonstrated a remarkable union of personal narrative and professional insight today. Your perspective adds value that can shape our market approach moving forward." Validation washed over her as waves of confidence bolstered her spirit. The following few days were transformative. Lily found herself tackling projects with tenacity she had never known. The more she contributed, the more recognition she garnered, not just from Mr. Thompson but from her peers, who began to see her as a vital asset, not merely an assistant. She had transcended the initial boundaries of her role, proving her ability to excel. Yet, throughout the whirlwind of achievement, her brother's health remained precarious. Each phone call home ignited a spurt of anxiety, fueling her relentless pursuit of balance. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, she learned to compartmentalize her responsibilities, dedicating specific hours to her work and prioritizing Ben's needs at home. She found herself devising creative solutions to manage time, like visualizing work-related tasks alongside nurturing routines for Ben's recovery. One evening, navigating papers on the dining table amidst school supplies and fever-reducing medicines, Lily noticed Ben's spirits starting to brighten. The warmth of his laughter filled their household again, igniting a flicker of hope within her. She had almost forgotten how much joy his presence bestowed, despite the strain they both faced. Days turned into weeks, and Lily gained a reputation for her innovative ideas and unwavering resolve. Mr. Thompson handed her more complex projects, keen on utilizing her unique perspective. By emphasizing compassion through their business initiatives, they began reaching broader demographics, a shift that both excited and inspired her. She was not just working to heal her family, she was influencing a company paradigm that could foster societal improvement. Finally, one evening as they prepared dinner together, Ben turned, his face aglow with an enthusiasm that tugged at Lily's heart. "Lily, do you think I can be just like you?" he asked, eyes wide with admiration. In that moment, clarity dawned upon her. "You already are," she replied, emotion thick in her throat. "You inspire me to be better every day." It dawned on her that this journey had forged an unbreakable bond, one burgeoning with empathy and pride. She understood that her conflicts had catalyzed her growth, leading her to embrace her both roles holistically, caregiver and professional. As she reflected on her path, she reveled in the newfound clarity that encompassed her, a sense of purpose, confidence, and self-discovery she had yet to articulate fully. With the weight of her journey behind her, she took a moment to breathe. She realized that she had not only pursued success but had embodied it, solidifying her self-worth and capabilities. No longer did she stand at the intersection of duty and ambition, she had conquered that space, merging them into a singular path of personal and professional fulfillment. Measuring her achievements, both large and small, she grinned, a potent blend of gratitude and recognition filling her chest. As the sun set on their small kitchen, she understood this was only the beginning. She had cultivated resilience, forged self-understanding, and won an unshakable confidence as she stepped forward, fully committed to making every day better than the last. Now, as she marveled at her reflection, a confident, determined young woman, Lily resolved not to merely subscribe to potential but to live it every single day. This is your moment to fuel your future. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and make your voice heard. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. What did this story mean to you? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and embrace their own journeys of personal growth. You need to subscribe now and impress upon others the power of transformation. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories will understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.